In today's video, we will look at a challenging problem on static equilibrium. A cube of mass m rests against a smooth wall, tilted at an angle theta with respect to the horizontal or with respect to the floor. So what that means is there is no friction at this point. The friction between the cube and the floor, that means at that point, is just sufficient to keep the cube from slipping. If theta is given by that range of values, find the minimum coefficient of static friction as a function of theta. So of course we have to deal with condition 1 of equilibrium and condition 2 of equilibrium in order to solve this problem. The center of mass of the cube is somewhere in the middle of that cube. Since this is a cross-sectional view of that cube, the dot can be taken to be the point where the two diagonal lines intersect. Another thing to note, that angle is 90 degrees, so that is 45 and that is 45. The same goes, that's 45, that's 45, and so on. Now let's sketch the free body diagram. So all the forces acting directly on this cube are as follows. There are 4 of them. The first is the weight of that cube, acting directly downward in a vertical manner and passing through that center of mass. The second force is the normal force at the point of contact from the floor onto the cube. Let's call it N1. And then there is another normal force from the wall onto the cube going perpendicularly to the wall. Let's call it N2. And finally, there is a static friction acting at the point of contact, acting leftward, and you can call it F sub s. It's a static friction. Now let's start writing down the equations. Let's look at condition 1 of static equilibrium. It says the net force acting on this cube is 0. So this is a two-dimensional problem. If you take that to be the x-axis and that to be the y-axis, the net force along x and y-axis must be both 0. So let's look along the x-axis. The horizontal forces, there are 2 of them, N2 and F sub s. And in order for them to cancel each other out, N2 has got to be the same as the static friction. Now the vertical direction. There are 2 forces that would cancel each other out, the normal force from the floor and the weight. So N1 equals the weight. So what we have here is static friction. Static friction is given by an inequality that look like this. Less or equal to the product of coefficient of static friction times that normal force from the floor onto the cube, like that. Note from the first equation, the static friction equals the normal force from the wall. So we can simply write that as N2. Likewise, N1, the normal force from the floor, equals to the weight of that cube. So we can represent that with just W. You will notice why we have written this inequality in such a form. So let's rewrite that inequality below up here for later use. Now let's turn to condition 2 of static equilibrium that says the net torque evaluated about any point acting on this body is also 0. Since we are free to choose the point about which to evaluate the torque, we shall attach that point here. So we shall create an axis about which we want to calculate the net torque at the point of contact between the cube and the floor. Immediately you will notice N1 and static friction will not contribute because these forces pass directly through the axis of rotation. That means the moment arm for these 2 forces are 0, so the contributions to net torque is also 0. So let's for the time being remove these 2 forces from the free body diagram below. What that means is there are two contributions to the net torque. One is due to the force N2, the normal force from the wall, and the torque due to that weight about an axis passing through that point. The torque due to N2 is as follows. It is the force N2 times the perpendicular distance between N2 and the axis of rotation. That means this distance. Can we determine this distance? Well, let's see. We know that this entire side is L because it is a cube. So if this is L, this angle here is theta, and this is the distance you want to calculate. Given that this is a right angle triangle, you see it becomes L sine theta. So there we have it, L sine theta for that perpendicular distance. Now let's determine the torque due to the weight. The torque due to the weight equals the weight times the perpendicular distance between the weight and axis of rotation. So that distance, let's call it x. How do we determine x in terms of given parameters? You notice x equals this entire distance. We can call that capital L minus that distance. You can call that little h. So you can write x equals to capital L minus h. So let's determine L. L is the distance from here all the way to the axis. You see, this is a right angle triangle. So what you have here is little l, this is theta, and that is capital L. So immediately you see that capital L equals L cosine theta. Now let's calculate h. That little h is the distance from here to here, meaning it is the same distance from here to there. So what you have here is another right angle triangle in the form of that. So this is h, this is right angle triangle, and this side is that length. So what is that length? It is half of that diagonal distance. The entire diagonal distance is L squared plus L squared square root. That means square root 2L. Half of that is square root 2 over 2L. So that is what this distance is. Square root 2 over 2L. Or you can write it as L over square root 2. What about this angle? Let's call it alpha, meaning that angle, alpha. You can see a zigzag rule that goes like that. So since this is theta, then this angle here has got to be theta. And as we have pointed out earlier, this angle here is 45 degrees because this entire angle is 90 degrees. Half of that is 45. What that means is alpha equals 45 degrees minus theta. And from this triangle that we have sketched, h equals L over square root 2 cosine alpha. And since alpha is 45 minus theta, you can write it as 45 minus theta here. So now we have a complete expression for little x, which is that distance. So x equals L minus h. L is L, little l cosine theta, minus h, which is L over 2, square root 2 rather, cosine 45 minus theta. So the torque due to this weight equals the weight times little x, which is that expression that we have just worked out. So you can take the little l outside, and write everything else inside a bracket. Cosine theta minus 1 over square root 2 cosine 45 minus theta. We note that these two torques have opposite signs. The weight will tend to rotate the cube about this axis this way, whereas N2 will tend to rotate the cube about the same axis in an opposite direction, like that. And if one is positive, the other one is negative, and they should have the same magnitude, only then the net torque on this cube would be 0. In other words, we can equate the magnitudes of these two expressions. In other words, you can write that formula as N2L sine theta, which is that, to be equal to the torque due to W, or the weight. The first thing you note, the L will get cancelled, and you notice you can write ratio of N2 over the weight as 1 over sine theta times cosine theta minus 1 over square root 2 cosine 45 minus theta. Why are we choosing to work out this ratio? Because in this inequality, there is such a ratio. The ratio is n over 2 over W is less or equal to the coefficient of static friction. So let's work out the right-hand side. So 1 over sine theta cosine theta minus 1 over square root 2. So using the trigonometrical identity, cosine 45 minus theta is cosine 45, which is 1 over square root 2, times cosine theta plus sine 45, 1 over square root 2 times sine theta. That goes in here. So both have 1 over square root 2. That would make the front number to be 1 over 2. So cosine theta plus sine theta, like that. So let's try to simplify the above expression. This becomes 1 over sine theta cosine theta minus half cosine theta is half cosine theta minus half sine theta. So that would give you the final answer for the ratio. Cosine over sine is cotangent theta. This sine will cancel that sine, will just give you a 1. Substituting here in this inequality, you see that mu sub s becomes greater or equal to half cotangent theta minus 1. And that would enable us to answer the problem now, namely the minimum coefficient of static friction is half times cotangent theta minus 1. And that is the answer we are looking for. And it is a reasonable answer, as we can check for the two extreme values. When theta approaches 0, you see that this expression goes to infinity, implying infinite friction. And when theta goes to 45 degrees, this expression tends to 0, implying 0 friction. Thus noting that the answer that we have derived works only for values of theta between those two extreme values. As always, thank you for watching.